Let's start with something that sounds like a joke, but is 100% real. In Georgia, USA, it's literally illegal to carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket. Now, you're probably thinking, bro, who even does that? But here's the plot twist. This law actually exists because back in the day, people used ice cream cones to steal horses. Yeah, you heard that right. Horses. Picture this. It's the 1800s. You see a horse you want to borrow, so you put an ice cream cone in your back pocket. The horse follows you for the treat, and boom. You've technically not stolen the horse, you just went for a walk, and it happened to follow you. The lawmakers were like, nah, bro, we see what you're doing, and banned the whole ice cream pocket situation. The crazy part? This law is still on the books today. So technically, if you're in Georgia right now with a cone in your back pocket, you're a criminal. But wait, it gets weirder. In Singapore, chewing gum is straight up banned. Not just littering gum, chewing it. Since 1992, chewing gum has been banned in Singapore to keep public spaces clean. The government said, you know what? People can't handle gum responsibly, so nobody gets gum. And they weren't messing around. Get caught with gum? That's a $1,000 fine for your first offense. Try to sell gum? That's up to $100,000 and 2 years in prison. For gum, bro, the only exception? Therapeutic gum from a pharmacy with a prescription. So if you're in Singapore and really need to chew something, you better have a medical note. Here's the kicker. It actually worked. Singapore is one of the cleanest cities in the world. But still, imagine explaining to your friends back home that you got arrested for chewing Trident. Now, this one's going to blow your mind. In Connecticut, there's an actual law about pickles. It's about bouncing pickles in the states. And yes, this is real. The law states that for a pickle to be considered a real pickle, it must bounce when dropped from 1 foot high. If your pickle doesn't bounce, it's not legally a pickle in Connecticut. This isn't just random. Back in 1948, 2 guys were arrested for selling pickles that didn't bounce. The court literally had to define what makes a pickle a pickle. The logic? A properly pickled pickle has the right texture and consistency to bounce. If it doesn't bounce, it's just a sad cucumber pretending to be a pickle. Imagine being the judge in that case. Your Honor, the pickle failed the bounce test. Case dismissed. Not a real pickle. The law is still there, which means pickle manufacturers in Connecticut technically have to make sure their pickles can bounce. I'm not even kidding. There are probably pickle quality inspectors whose job is to drop pickles and see if they bounce. Now let's hop over to the UK, where there's a ban on wearing suits of armor in UK Parliament. Yes, wearing armor to Parliament is illegal. This law dates back to 1313, when King Edward II was tired of armed nobles showing up to political meetings looking like they were ready for battle. The vibe was getting a bit too Game of Thrones for comfort. But here's what's wild. This law has never been repealed. So technically, if you show up to Parliament in full knight armor, you're breaking a 700-year-old law. The fact that this is still officially illegal means somewhere in the legal system, someone thought, yeah, we should probably keep this rule just in case. Can you imagine the headlines? Local MP arrested for wearing chainmail to budget meeting. Now, here's one that sounds like it came from a comedy show. In West Virginia, there's a ban on using ferrets as hunting animals. Now, ferret hunting is actually a real thing that's been around for centuries. People use ferrets to hunt rabbits and other small animals because ferrets can chase prey out of burrows. It's called ferreting, and it's still legal in many places. But West Virginia said, nope, not here. The law specifically bans using ferrets for hunting, which means you can hunt with dogs. You can hunt with birds of prey. But ferrets? That's where they draw the line. The best part? The law is so specific that it only mentions ferrets. So technically, you could probably hunt with a mongoose or a weasel, but ferrets are specifically prohibited. Imagine being the person who had to explain this to their ferret. Sorry, buddy, we're moving to a different state. Your hunting career is over. Let's talk about driving laws that make zero sense. In Alabama, it's illegal to drive blindfolded. Wait, what? Someone had to make a law about this? This means at some point, enough people were driving blindfolded that they had to specifically make it illegal. What were people thinking? You know what would make driving more exciting? Not seeing anything. But it gets worse. In Thailand, driving a car shirtless is considered offensive. So if it's 100 degrees outside and you take your shirt off while driving, you could get in trouble. And in Missouri, apparently shaving while driving is legal if you have a permit. A permit for shaving while driving. This raises so many questions. Who issues shaving permits? Is there a test? Do you have to demonstrate your ability to shave and drive simultaneously? Yes, sir. I can navigate traffic while maintaining a clean jawline. Okay, so far I've mostly talked about North American states, but the weirdness isn't limited to the US. Around the world, there are laws that'll make your head spin. In parts of Australia, it's illegal to walk on the right side of the sidewalk. In Switzerland, you can't flush the toilet after 10 p.m. in apartment buildings because it's considered noise pollution. In France, it's illegal to name your pig Napoleon. Apparently, they're still sensitive about that whole emperor thing. And in Japan, being overweight is technically illegal for people over 40. They measure your waist, and if it's too big, you can be fined. Imagine getting arrested for eating too much ramen. But here's my favorite. In Denmark, you have to check under your car for sleeping children before starting it. This law exists because apparently kids used to sleep under cars for warmth. The fact that this needed to be a law is both heartbreaking and hilarious. All right, let's end with some truly bizarre ones. In Nevada, it's illegal to keep a spray-painted shopping cart in your basement. This is so specific that you know there's a story behind it. Someone, somewhere, had a collection of spray-painted shopping carts in their basement, and it bothered someone enough that they made it illegal. In Kansas, there's an age limit on those who use playgrounds. So if you're too old and want to relive your childhood on the swings, you're technically breaking the law. And in various states, there are laws about everything, from the color you can paint your house, to how many cats you can own, to whether you can collect rainwater. Now drop a comment with the weirdest law you've ever heard of. I'll read every single one. And tell me if you find any sense in any of these laws. Subscribe and stay tuned. I'll be back soon with another video.